Hello, everyone. Welcome to Goway Industry Insiders webinar series. Hear stories from industry experts, travelers, explorers, and globetrotters who will inspire you to dream bigger, explore further, and discover a new world. Today, I'd like to welcome Lora. Lora is you're here in Toronto?
Yeah,
or
I'm
in
just
North America,
west
LA?
of Toronto, but here in Ontario. Yeah.
Okay, so Lora is here in Toronto, but however, representing Tourism Australia. But today, well, we will naturally talk about Australia today, but today's focus will be Australia and Australia in respect to groups. What you can do down there, why it's a group-friendly destination, all those fun things about group travel. But before we get going, Laura, sorry, do you want to just, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah,
Laura?
you're pronouncing it correctly. Yeah, Laura. Yeah.
Okay, cool. To make sure it's a different spelling, that's what I was asking.
Parents had to make me original.
Yeah, fair enough. You want to tell our viewing and listening audience a little bit about yourself and how you ended up representing Australia?
Yeah, so hello, everybody. So as Don mentioned, my name is Lora Hamre, and I'm the Eastern Account Manager for Tourism Australia, also the Aussie Specialist Trainer. Very happy to be representing Tourism Australia. I've been in the industry for, oh my goodness, like 20 years now in different roles. I had been an agent in past lives, and I've also worked with different tour operators and things like that. Australia is such a fantastic destination. When I had the opportunity to be able to represent it in Canada, I jumped on the chance. We have a fantastic team here in Canada, and of course, the destination itself is amazing. Our focus today, of course, is going to be on group travel, and that is something that I've been very focused on in past roles and things like that. It is a great opportunity for you to grow your business. And I know Don's going to be asking me, I'm sure, some questions on why Australia is a great destination for groups. So thanks so much for having me today.
Our pleasure. So just on the reason we're focusing on groups, and again, we know we have a lot of agents out there who know Goway, but maybe some new people listening in. Goway has one of the largest group departments in North America. They've been around almost as long as the company, which is coming up to 55 years. And there is an absolute wealth of experience in our groups department. So most people mightn't think of sort of mainstream destinations, like Australia, New Zealand, as a group destination, but it is very, very receptive, literally and metaphorically, to group travel because of what it offers. So that's why we're focusing on it, because we have lots of agents out there who work with groups or maybe wanting to get into groups. And maybe that sort of mainstream destination is a good way to get your group up and running because it's a familiar or somewhat familiar destination in that it's English speaking, although we have weird accents. For those who mightn't know, I am from Australia.
Some interesting Sydney, little slang words there too, Don.
Yeah. So for the most part, it's like North America, though it's very, very Aussie. And, we do have our own culture and identity, to say the least. So, Laura, why should someone look at Australia as a group destination other than the reasons I just mentioned?
Well, Australia is a fantastic destination for groups for sure. As you mentioned, there are a lot of similarities between Canada and Australia, and there's so many connections. In my travels in the past while, there's so many people who, like yourself, who've moved to Canada from Australia or have family members there or want to go back and reach back to ties. So it is a very comfortable destination that way. Of course, Australia is also a great destination for groups because it is a safe destination to travel to. It's a very lucrative destination for sure, which of course, when you're looking to book your group travel, it is definitely lucrative. We also have, through the Australia Tourism Office, we have something called our Aussie Premier Specialists. So if you haven't already done your Aussie Specialist course, definitely we'll be sharing that information with you after the webinar, after the presentation today. But with the Aussie Premier Specialist program, you only need $150,000 in sales. So that's like two groups, 2 or 3 groups to qualify for that. And that gets you added to the website to make you a Aussie group specialist, right? Where you're going to get promoted. You also will have special invites to events and things like that as well. But, really traveling to Australia as a group is great. You're traveling sometimes you're traveling such a long distance, right? I mean, Australia, I have to say, is not a close place for us to visit from Canada. You are traveling quite a ways. So traveling as a group as well makes that distance not so great. Doesn't seem as much trouble to travel. Travel is more enjoyable. And of course, you also have that opportunity then too to possibly travel for free when you're escorting the group. So, and because Australia is a large country, it's almost as large as Canada, very similar in size to the US, you also have that opportunity for repeat business for those groups. Maybe they go and focus
Yeah.
on one area and then they go back and choose another area going forward. So those are just some of the reasons why Australia is great for your groups.
Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out a couple of things there. One, there's the Aussie Specialist Program, which agents should look at doing. Off the back of that, for those who may not know, there's the Goway Pro Travel Academy. That's our in-house training module. And we have very extensive destinational training modules on all of Australia. We have an overview of Australia, then we go down state by state, New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, so on and so forth. We don't have Western Australia in there yet. That's coming up. So you can do that. We also have a very detailed groups training module on how to get a group, how to market a group if you've never done it before and want some information there. The other thing that Laura mentioned is the size of Australia. So one, obviously, repeat business. And this goes for an FIT or a group situation. It's a very, very big country. Again, as Laura mentioned, as big as Canada or US or very close to it. So like on a trip, in theory, really, you should spend 2 weeks in New South Wales. I know there's a lot, really most people only have that much time and they'll try and cram it a bit more. But the point is, 2 weeks, New South Wales, go back to Queensland for 2 weeks, 2 weeks in the centre, 2 weeks, Victoria, so on and so forth. So from a geographic point of view, it is big and therefore, again, repeat business and lots of other things to
Absolutely.
do. The other thing too is getting there. Goway is a air consolidator, and because of our groups department, we deal with group air as well. So that don't be scared off by having to get people there. Yeah, it's a long way, but we always say like it's a couple of glasses of wine, a movie, and a sleep, and then you're in Oz. So we can also assist with airfare for your group. And again, a group to Goway is 10 or more. So 10, 20, 200, 2,000. And we have done really large groups to big events, which we'll touch on in a minute too in regards to Australia.
And also too, having the opportunity to do your air through Goway, there are also opportunities to do stopovers, with your group as you're on your way to Australia. So I know there's some great options there too with some of the airlines offering free stopovers. So
yeah, so just on that note, just so we can give full education out there, like there are lots of direct flights out of San Francisco, Vancouver, LA, Houston, I think Atlanta as well into Australia. But then you've got options, same direct flights to New Zealand, though, which can get you into Australia via Fiji. In fact, there's a big sale on now as we record this, which is just for the record, May 2024. So if you listen to this in a year, the special may be gone by then. But it's literally $1,100 Canadian from the West Coast with Fiji Air into Australia. So if there's a stop over there, you've got Air Tahiti Nui. You've got Hawaiian Airlines via the Cook Islands. There are so many different options to get to Australia, as Laura mentioned, other than the direct. So we've just given a little bit of advice about what to think about when considering arranging a group to Australia. So are there any other aspects you'd like to bring up in regards to thinking about this destination?
For sure. And when you're looking at considering arranging a group to Australia, one thing for sure you want to give yourself is ample time. Like with any groups, especially though for Australia, because it is a distance to travel and it is a fairly like a bucket list destination and a bit of a higher price point, you definitely want to have that advanced planning. So you want to give yourself at least a year in advance to start planning for that group. To Australia. Also, too, of course, the great thing about planning your group early, you have that opportunity to pre-book your components. And in many cases now, because we know that the popularity, everybody's got that demand to get out there and start exploring the world again and getting out there to see things. Pre-booking components, of course, is very, very key now. And having that time to plan to make sure that you're going to be able to get in and see those activities and do the things that you want to see and do when you're in Australia and that your group wants to do, it's definitely important to do so. And of course, working with Goway, they are amazing. You know, they really are specialists in the region, and they're able to help you with all of that. And then, of course, you got to look at what your market is. You know, are you looking to plan a group for somebody who's never been to Australia before, or maybe they have been, and you're looking at those repeat clients. So again, looking at the locations, where they want to go, all those kinds of questions that you want to make sure you kind of run through before you actually start blocking your group. And I know that the groups team at Goway are fantastic for that, to be able to help you to really narrow down and ensure that your group is getting the best option for them when it comes to Australia.
Yep. Now, so again, here are some logistics with groups in general, which applies to all destinations. But as Laura mentioned, again, plan ahead. Naturally, that goes for almost any destination, particularly if you have a large group, 20 or more, because then certain hotels will need to be planned well ahead. Some hotels might be able to handle that size, split hotels, bigger hotels, all that type of thing. So definitely plan ahead. Also check calendars for big events down there. Australia, the school years are different in Australia. It's not like North America where you have pretty much, it's winter and then the kids have summer off. In Australia, it's a bit different. We have terms and they run throughout the year, but the big holidays are Easter and Christmas, which is our winter. In Australia, summertime. So there's 6 weeks off, sort of the end of December into January. So that's high time for weather. It's high time for domestic travel. So therefore, space will even be at a premium, more of a premium at that particular time. When you want to work with Goway on a group to Australia, to get the ball rolling, all you need is $1,000 deposit, which basically equates to $100 per person based on 10 people traveling. Remember, a group is 10 or more for Goway groups. And that's it. So if your group goes to 20 or 2,000, or maybe 2,000, we'd have to have a different conversation about deposits. But 20 to 30, if it starts bumping up a few people, the deposit doesn't change. It's that $100 per person, $1,000 in total to get the ball rolling, to start reaching out to the hotels and services, as Laura mentioned. And then if for any reason your group doesn't come to fruition, that deposit is movable to another date within, I think it's 2 years, so I could be wrong in that, but it's movable at least once to either try again or move to a different group. So there's lots of flexibility there. Yeah, because we also know that groups, they're not overly difficult, but they have their own challenges, and that's one of them where, herding 20, 30, 500 people together is like herding cats. So we know that things can change and it can sometimes be postponed for varying reasons. So we're there, and a lot of this is covered in our groups only training module in the academy.
And that also depends too on whether you already have a group already pre-planned. Like if you have somebody who comes to you with a special interest, but if you're looking to put together a group for Australia and you haven't necessarily got that group ahead of time, one of the things I always find is beneficial is maybe, put a survey out to your clients to say, hey, what are you interested in doing? What would you like to see? Because then you already kind of have an idea too of the interest, which also helps too when you're doing those spec groups.
100%. And that actually segues very nicely to my next question is, from a geographical area or point of view, I should say, what areas of Australia do you see would be the most attractive for a group?
You know what? They're all very group friendly. Really,
it's a very open-ended question.
It for sure is. I mean, they truly are all group friendly. Again, it goes back to who is your group? Like, what are they looking to do? Are they first timers to Australia? Because a lot of times first timers, they think that, in their mind, the first things that you think of if you've never been to Australia before, you think of course, Queensland and going to the Great Barrier Reef, or going into Sydney, Melbourne. So a lot of times staying on the East Coast. But then if you're looking at a repeat client, maybe they're wanting to head over to Western Australia or spending more time in the Northern Territory. So it really depends on who your client is and also what they're wanting to do, right? Because again, as I say, Australia is a great wide open place, and there's just so much to do no matter where you go. I know it sounds like with Goway as well, with your specialist course that you have internally, but also through our Aussie specialist page, we do have many modules as well that cover different topics. So, wanting to find out more about group activities that we have modules specifically designed around different special interests. Of course, like we have our great walks, we have youth experiences and family travel, we have courses surrounding golf. So maybe you have golfers who want to go and try out a few of the courses, because Australia has some amazing, amazing golf courses and some pretty spectacular scenery to do so. Fishing, it's a big thing too, especially heading down to Tasmania. Amazing, fly fishing down there. You've got sustainable travel, which has really become much more prominent now, and looking for opportunities to maybe go off the beaten track a little bit. And then nature and wildlife. We can't forget about nature and wildlife when it comes to Australia, right? I mean, the quokkas and the kangaroos and koalas. And then also the culture, having, the Indigenous culture of Australia is the oldest culture in the world, like spanning over 60,000 years. I mean, it's just such an incredible opportunity to learn about the culture and history of the destination. So we have modules that are based on all of those topics that really will help you when it comes to planning groups and looking at putting together ideas and options for group travel.
Perfect. So just to extend on that, I'm going to throw some different types of things that a group person may consider if they have these connections. There's photography groups, amazing photography in Australia, like anywhere in the world, but the outback and the sunsets, the wildlife itself, which leads into birding. We got any birding groups out there. Some of the most unique birds anywhere in the world are in Australia. You've got diving in the Barrier Reef, but lots of other places around, reef wreck dives, sailing groups, Barrier Reef, the Whitsundays, culinary groups. Australia is now infested with coffee shops and restaurants, so it's it's gone from the old meat pie and beer type thing, which is still a good meal, let me tell you, but to some very exquisite, exotic, first class dining experiences. Of course, wine, Australian wines are world famous, Barossa, Hunter, etc. So wine groups, sporting groups to either go down and play against other teams. Rugby is a big thing in Canada and the US. It's growing, but there are a lot of big sporting events that happen in Australia. There's the annual Sydney to Hobart yacht race. So again, like any country, you could pick a million different events and happenings. But Australia, from a convention point of view, and all the big cities, is exceptionally set up for big conventions. If your group's attending one, or you actually want to set one up or coordinate one. So really, whatever you can think of, for the most part, unless it's a North American sport. There's even ice hockey in Sydney. That much I know. If you want to go and watch some underground ice hockey, you could do that. So anything you can think of, really, I think Australia, from a group's point of view, can offer that up for a group or for a group to join that's down there. Now, one thing I didn't mention, I purposely didn't mention it because I want to leave this question now to Laura. Generational travel, so families, etc., is becoming bigger and bigger. Like, I know the answer, but I have to ask it. Is Australia a good spot for family travel?
Of course, yes. No, and we are seeing
yes, of course.
We are seeing that trend as well. I mean, the grandparents wanting to take the grandkids and the entire family to go experience, a destination together. And I mean, and Australia is, again, a great opportunity for that. There's, again, so many family-friendly activities. On the Gold Coast, of course, you've got all the great theme parks. You have Sydney, where you have opportunities to do some pretty cool things, which I won't mention everything now because I know the next question that's coming up is probably going to be connected to that. But we do also have, of course, many apartment style hotel accommodations available for families. So it's really great when it comes to generational travel, because they can rent out a house or rent out an apartment that has a kitchen facility, which is great, especially when you're traveling with kids, because we all know that when they're hungry, right? And we don't want them to get cranky, or they want to go have a nap or whatever it may be. So again, it absolutely is a wonderful destination. And again, because it is a safe destination and there is so much to do there really is something for everybody in the family to be able to enjoy.
So to highlight those 2 points. So the first one is Goway pioneered what we term snowbirds. Well, it's not, we didn't pioneer that term, but the concepts, for those who are listening may not be from North America or be familiar with it, it's where people who live in the colder climates, particularly Canada or the northern US states, would get away from the cold and winter and head off primarily to Florida, Arizona, to swap the winter for the sun. So Goway in the 80s, when everything was Australia, Land Down Under and In Excess and America's Cup, all that type of stuff, Goway pioneered the snowbird stays in Australia, primarily up around the Gold Coast in Queensland, which is what it suggests. It's long stays, in the sunshine. And again, the Gold Coast and Brisbane area is very similar in vibe and feel to Florida. So again, there's that there's that similarity aspect of trips to Australia. So we have that options as well now expanded just beyond the Gold Coast to most big cities in Australia. So again, as Laura mentioned, if you have a family, you're looking for a longer stay and you need to accommodate them, literally condos, houses can all be arranged for you through Goway groups. And just as an example, I took my kids and my wife, they were young at the time. I'm going to guess here, she'll kill me, but like 8, 11 and 13 type thing. And we drove in an RV, or what they call in Australia, they're called motorhomes or camper vans, from Darwin all the way into the centre to Ayers Rock. So there's some more roughy-tufty aspects of generational travel or group travel as well, where you could hire like 4 or 5 RVs. So there's another example. Driving groups, people who like to drive, could go down and do some really cool backcountry driving, etc. Now, I did steal a bit of thunder for this next question by mentioning things like RVs and diving and whatnot. But what are some of the group-friendly and, I guess, wow activities for a group going to Australia?
Oh, and I was going to mention, too, like with the RVs, I mean, it is such a popular way to travel around Australia, isn't it? Like, it is a great way to travel and be able to explore, and the roads are fantastic. So as long as you remember you're driving on the left-hand side of the road for us here in North America and Canada, right?
That's the first thing.
Important.
And if you're going to look at a driving holiday, you have to, again, back to geography, allow time.
For sure.
Because, in Europe, you can cross 3 countries in a day. Here, you'll be lucky to cross 1 state in a day.
That's right. But yes, looking at some different group-friendly and wow activities. I mean, the Opera House in Sydney is such an incredible place to explore. So doing maybe a tour of the Opera House or the Bridge Walk in Sydney, if you're looking for something more active, you get spectacular views from up there. Now, I don't know if you've had a chance to do that yet, Don. Have you ever done the Bridge Walk? Yes.
Yes, I did actually. I was back home a year and a bit ago. Now, I've got to tell 2 things here. One, I did it then legally because it's now a legal organisation. When I was much younger, I actually climbed to the top of the bridge without permission, if you know what I mean. So, yeah. But, I think I've been away from home for 7 years or more. So what's the term? Like I can't remember, but I've been away long enough.
You're good. You lost it's past the statute of limitations or whatever, right?
That's it. Statute of limitations. That's what
I've been watching too much court cases that are in the news these days.
Yeah.
Another really cool experience not far from Sydney, of course, is the Roar and Snore experience at the Taronga Zoo. This is such a cool activity for groups and families. And you have the opportunity, you can camp actually in the zoo, but getting to see koalas in the trees, like right outside the windows of your accommodation, and just some very, very cool experiences there for groups for sure. In Uluru, having that opportunity to do the Sound of Silence, maybe doing a camel ride out there. They do incredible
100%.
dinners and cocktails while you watch the sunset over Uluru. It's just spectacular. Another really cool kind of group activity too is the reef sleep, of course, in the Great Barrier Reef, getting to go actually sleep out on the reef, and you've got the almost like the glass bottom boats, so you really get an opportunity to experience the marine life. So another really cool experience too in Uluru is the didgeridoo workshop. So again, this is a fun one too for your family groups too, kids getting the opportunity to learn about the didgeridoo and the indigenous culture and get to try it out. It's quite a cool instrument, right? So there's just so many different wow activities. It's really hard to narrow it down. Kangaroo Island in South Australia, getting to actually be there, everything's just all the animals are just wild, and having that opportunity to get up close and personal to them without, of course, disturbing them, right? You do not want to touch them, but it does give you that opportunity to see the wilderness, the wildlife. We're in Rottnest Island, of course, the quokkas, which are super, super cute little characters that are found on Rottnest Island. So there's just so many really amazing wow experiences. I could go on and on and on. We don't have enough. I don't know how long we want to stay here because we could just probably go on for hours.
We're going forever. I'm going to throw a few more out there. There is Fraser Island up near Brisbane, which is the largest sand island in the world, where you can see wild dingoes. You can drive 4-wheel drives along the beach. It's actually allowed there. You can. Laura mentioned seeing koalas at Taronga Zoo, which of course you can. You can often see them in the wild. Not so much in the suburbs, but they are around. sadly, because a lot of them are being pushed out of their habitat. But I think it's just outside of Brisbane, there's a koala sanctuary where you can hold them. That's the only spot in Australia where it's legal, emphasize that word, legal, to hold koalas, because if you do grab one in the wild, they can get stressed out very quickly. So please don't do that if you come across that. Tasmania is often forgotten about, literally part of Australia, a little island below the country, or the mainland, I should say. Yeah, Tasmanian devils. But a lot of people, again, Laura mentioned it too, we have the indigenous culture of the Aborigines, the oldest living culture in the world, which is now very much part of Australian society and culture, which is really good that that's come into the fold over the last 20 or 30 years. But a lot of people don't understand or realize the colonial history, the white history. Again, there's controversy around that, but it's part of our history. And for those, very quick overview, convicts were sent from England to Australia. It was a penal colony originally. So they were not all really bad people, but there were some pretty nasty people sent out here. And if you misbehaved down here, you were then sent all the way down to Tasmania. So probably the best example of our colonial history, at least the early penal convict days, is in Tasmania. Sure. So historic groups, there's another one to look at as well. Driving, we mentioned RV, motorhomes or otherwise. Now, here's a couple little easy ones you can do, and they're all over the country, but some famous ones is where I grew up, a little beach called Coogee Beach in the eastern suburbs. You can walk from Coogee all the way to the mouth of the harbour. So it's a coastal walk, it's called, coastal walks, and they are awesome. They're very busy because all the locals do them now, but you can literally walk from Coogee through Bondi Beach, world-famous beach, all the way to what we call South Head, because that's the south opening of the Sydney harbour. And then you have stunning views to the ocean and to the city as you go. So any walking groups, running groups. We have a very famous run every year, Sydney to Surf, where you run from downtown Sydney to Bondi Beach. So running groups, walking groups. Again, like think of a group, think of an activity. Normally a group goes with it. We can help you out there. Now, we've touched on the fact that you can go back to Australia because there's, as we just discussed, let alone geographically, just things to see and do. But what would be some either upcoming events or annual events that a group coordinator might look at when it comes to sending people to Australia?
And before I jump into that, I just want to mention we do just recent numbers, 68% repeat factor for Australia. So again, when you are looking to do groups, if you have a first-time group going, knowing that once they go, they're going to fall in love and want to go back, right? Because unless you have a lot of time, you're not going to be able to do the entire country in your one visit, right? Yeah. So having that opportunity to go, maybe see the your key sites to start that people think of when they first think of going to Australia, and then going back and looking at some of those other regions that are absolutely spectacular that may not be forefront of mind to start with. But 68% repeat factor, that's huge. I think that's fantastic. So
well, yeah, it's great for the country, and for an agent out there, that just shows you. Sure.
Great revenue, right? And great opportunities for that repeat business. Exactly. So, but yeah, there are tons of different activities and events that are happening. I mean, Australia has so many amazing outdoor festivals that go on throughout the year. Music festivals, food and wine festivals. Of course, we've got the Grand Prix in Australia. So if you are looking for a specific kind of events,
Australian Grand Prix.
You've got the Australian Grand Prix. You've got the Australia Open. There's an amazing motorcycle tour that goes in Western Australia too. So if you have any bikers, I know I guess it's just because my partner is into riding motorcycles and is going all around the world now to do so, but it's becoming very, very popular, Another key thing that a lot of people, when they're looking for celebrations, I mean, that opportunity to go and experience New Year's in Sydney, right? Like, you're seeing it first place that it happens in the world. I mean, incredible celebrations over Sydney Harbour. So, of course, the Pride Parade, too, is one of the largest in the world in Sydney. So lots of great places to, kind of look at putting a group towards a specific kind of event. And again, they do, they are very, very popular for sure.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of other big events, but I think you've covered. I did mention you got the Sydney to Hobart race, which happens, I think, New Year's Day out of Sydney Harbour. And again, the New Year's celebration is world famous because it's literally the first and splattered all over the news here in North America, and it's stunning using the harbour as a backdrop. Again, it's just so much that we could list, and maybe I'll put up one of those sort of scrolling list as we're talking now about all the things you could see and do in the events that are coming up. But again, it's a fantastic convention area as well.
For sure.
It's a first world country with everything developed. So Sydney Harbour and Darling Harbour, which is just to the west of downtown Sydney, is being developed or has continues being developed. So there's lots of big convention centres,
and also a great destination,
casinos, and,
a great destination for incentive travel. So if you are working with any corporate clients, I mean, Australia is definitely a fantastic destination for your for incentive travel. It's very, very popular.
Yeah, and again, Goway can assist in all this, and basically negotiating on your behalf. It's well to note that Goway is factually the largest mover of people from North America to Australia.
Yeah.
So we are the largest operator into Australia. We have our own office in Sydney, so that helps with coordinating particularly groups, let alone our FIT programs. So we have good buying power. So when it comes to groups and conventions, weddings, there's another obvious one. Weddings as well. Some of those beautiful beaches in the world to have a wedding, or vistas around.
But any milestones, right? Like special anniversaries, birthdays. Yeah. I mean, people want to look at those bucket list destinations, and Australia is definitely there for that.
Yeah, 100%. So, with our buying power, our years of experience, we can definitely assist. We have, as I say, we have the Australian Tourism Board have their training program. We have our own destinational program, the Goway Pro Travel Academy, and one solely dedicated to groups. I think it's literally 7 modules long, so it's very, very in-depth, literally from what is a group, how to get one, to marketing it, and again, a lot of the stuff we've touched on today, which is applicable for all destinations around the world in regards to how to organize a group. So that sort of wraps up all the big points that we had written down to hit today, because we do plan ahead here. We do plan ahead.
Just like you'll do for your group for Australia. You'll plan ahead.
Yeah, there you go. I love it. I love it. Yeah, plan ahead, plan ahead. So Laura, though, is there anything else that I might have missed, or that you'd like to bring up to our audience listening about group travel to Australia?
No, I mean, as I say, like, Australia is just such a welcoming destination for your travelers. Goway does have an incredible groups department. They have some amazing trips that are already pre-planned. So if you are looking at a first timer and you're looking to put something together as a speculative group, those pre-packaged, planned kind of itineraries are fantastic to look at. But if you are wanting to customize something and do something more FIT, that's absolutely, Goway knows what they're doing when it comes to FIT in Australia, for sure.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So to wrap up, again, we have the Goway Pro Travel Academy, which if you're a member of, go in and find the modules on groups in Australia. If you're not, go to gowayagent.com, where you'll find the sign-up sheet for that, or sign up link for that. Excuse me, I've got some text coming in as I'm talking here. I don't know how to turn it off. Oh, there it is again. So we have that. Goway.com has a gazillion travel ideas for Australia, which you can take as a concept and then present to your group coordinator, or take and create a group itinerary in conjunction with the Goway group specialists here at Goway, which you can then sell to your potential group out there as well. Or you can just, if you have your own idea, you can come to us and we can help create that for you as well. Laura, do you want to give a plug to some of the Tourism Australia avenues?
Yeah, I was going to say a really great resource for you to go in and get some ideas again on things to do, activities for families and groups in general. The australia.com website is fantastic for that, as well as, of course, our Aussie specialist website, which it's acidhub.australia.com, and then we also have our aussiespecialist.com websites. So we will definitely share those with you, though, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll dig those up and throw them on the screen as we talk.
And as I mentioned,
right now for everyone
focusing
to see.
on groups for Australia is a great way for you to get that premier specialist designation, which once you get that, you will be listed on the website, and it does give you even more business towards Australia. So it is a great win-win for you to not only have fantastic groups to Australia through Goway, but also to be able to grow your business and get more Aussie business coming your way.
Excellent. So that's it from us. If you do have any questions, you can contact us at info@goway.com. And obviously, this would be ideally groups inquiries, and we'll forward your information onto our groups team, and they'll get back to you. They all work in the same way as our FIT team does at each group's, or a little bit different in that the group specialists, they have maybe a couple of regions which they're specialists in, but that's all they're selling. So when you're looking for a group to Australia, you will speak to someone who has pretty much only or is only dealing in Australia, maybe a secondary country as well. But they know their stuff inside out, not only from all of the stuff we've discussed today, geographical, destinational, flights, insurance as well, which we didn't mention, but we can arrange that. But they've also seen and heard most things groups. So, you might think your idea is weird and wonderful. Probably not. Even if it is, it's a new challenge. We can get it done. Basically, if you can think of it, Goway 9.9 times out of 10 can get it done for you, FIT, and in particular for groups. So on that note, I'd like to thank everyone for listening in today, for watching. I'd like to thank Laura for her time.
Thanks for having me.
And again, anything groups, give us a shout. Reach out to Tourism Australia. And Laura, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Don. Okay, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
See ya.